Today we're doing what we do as producers, as broadcasters, and as people. We move forward.
That was Brent Bambury, guest host of Q. When it hit the airwaves earlier today, Bambury's message was clear. The popular CBC radio show will go on without Jian Ghomeshi at the mic. The now former host of Q and the CBC severed ties over the weekend, and Ghomeshi has said he planned to launch a lawsuit.
That's what annoys people about the CBC. They're so portentous. We move forward as producers, as people, as opposed to what? Robots from Mars? I mean, for goodness sake, come on. Well, Jian Ghomeshi. All those years of proclaiming feminism and gender equality and non-violence, leftist, loving and sharing, beautiful way of life. And now these truly terrible allegations. They are terrible allegations, by the way. We don't know if they're true. Of course we don't, and we have to say that. And Ghomeshi's $55 million lawsuit against the CBC has thrown a cloud of unknowing, if you like, a cloud of legal chill and silence over the whole thing. Brian Radnoff is a partner with Lerner's commercial litigation lawyers, and he says that the whole suit is a publicity stunt and stands no chance of success. Let me quote him here, because we're going to speak to him in a few minutes. The document reads more as a publicity stunt than a serious legal challenge. For starters, said Radnoff, it opens with a quote from former Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau: "There is no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation." That's not appropriate, said Radnoff. Although the quotation is very pithy and one will remember, it's not proper in a statement of claim. Well, here he is. I mean, it's rhetoric, it's hyperbole. I mean, it's quoted out of context generally. It's meaningless. For a legal document, that'll be laughed at by a judge, surely.
Well, it certainly will be a problem. And I think any judge who looks at a statement of claim that starts off with a quote will have some questions about the purpose of that statement of claim.
Yeah.
So I think a fair reading of it is it's more related to the public relations exercise that I think Mr. Ghomeshi has been very successfully carrying out over the last couple of days.
I wonder.
And, well, and that's arguable, and less related to any legal goals that he has, which will likely be accomplished through the collective agreement unionized procedure that he has.
The law is very specific. It's not, I feel a certain way, or life isn't fair. It is, there is a contract between two parties, and one party has broken that contract. If I understand the law, does he have any sort of grounds?
Well, his claim is based not on breach of contract, which is
metaphorically. I mean, one party has failed legally to uphold its side of an agreement or bargain or broken the law.
Well, in this case, his claim is based on a defamation. So the CBC said something bad about me that wasn't true. And also a breach of confidence. I gave them information and they used it in a way they weren't entitled to use it. There's problems with this. The first one is both of these claims come out of his employment relationship.
Yeah.
And so he's got a problem in that he's supposed to be dealing with grievances under his collective agreement. They're not supposed to be dealt with in the courts. So I expect that's going to be a problem for him and may result in his claim getting struck. The second issue is if you give information to your employer, so you know, for example, God forbid, that someone's going to say really bad things about you and going to make you look bad.
It has happened.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, some serious allegations of perhaps criminal conduct, and it's going to reflect poorly on your employer just because you are a well-known media personality. Well, you kind of have an obligation to tell your employer about that, and your employer may be entitled to terminate you.
This was known, perhaps it's now anachronistic, but morality clause. Would there be such a thing in a standard contract?
Well, once again, he would not have a contract likely because he's a unionized employee. So there would be a collective agreement between the union and the CBC. Now, that collective agreement may have provisions, a code of conduct, but also just generally the CBC would have some sort of code of conduct.
Something slightly different, but within the same context, same purview. It's reported in the Toronto Star that a woman, I assume a young woman, in that particular position, he grabbed her from behind and said, I'd like to hate F you. And then there was harassment, and when she went to the union, who then went to the producer said to her, how can you make this a less toxic place of work? How can you make the atmosphere easier? And eventually she left. What it seems to be saying is that her grievance was not listened to, and she in the end was the person who suffered. In legal terms, no one has gone to the police. No one has gone after him directly. I wonder if that will still be the state of play within 24 or 48 hours, by the way. But that doesn't look good on the CBC. It looks appalling. This is a company that boasts the idea of equality, and a young woman, relatively speaking, powerless, and she's treated like that?
Well, once again, this is based on the report, as you said. If it is true that an employee complains to their employer, whether unionized or not, that they've been harassed, and normally this would happen with a female complaining about a man's conduct, and the employer doesn't properly carry out an investigation and determine what happened, and particularly if the employer would say something along the line of, how could you make the situation not happen, or how could you make things better? That's not proper.
And don't wear such a short skirt, or don't be so attractive, that sort of
My guess
thing.
is, I don't know this for fact, but that would be contrary to CBC policy as well. So in other words, if a producer actually said that to her, that producer may also have difficulty with his employment.
Lots of alleged, possibly, and fear of litigation and so on, but I think we can conclude this looks very, very bad for both Mr. Ghomeshi and for his former employer, the CBC.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. Depending on
it was a statement, really.
Well, then let me comment on your statement. Very quickly. There seems to be an issue with Mr. Ghomeshi because he clearly wanted to get out and get his side of the story out and spin it. With the CBC, we still don't know all of the facts yet. They may have acted quite properly based on the information they had at the time. But of course, at this point, we really just know Mr. Ghomeshi's story. We don't know the CBC story.
Well, we don't know the CBC's, but we do know other people's, because the Toronto Star immediately used Ghomeshi's piece on Facebook to say, now we feel entitled to and empowered to give what we've been reporting. I have to stop you there, because otherwise we'll be out of time, and then I'll be sued. Make sure to check out my Facebook page, not as interesting as Mr. Ghomeshi's, I'm sure. Facebook.com, Michael Corrin's Sun News Network, lots of stories and videos.